So here we're using qui and que. So again, just a reminder, one would replace what the subject is, so it would go in front of a verb, and the other one would go in front of a subject and a verb. So you would look out for words like je, tu, il, elle, any of those pronouns, perhaps someone's name, perhaps the words like moi et toi, things like that. Any pronouns that would imply a subject is there already in front of a verb. If that's the case, we would use que, and when we're missing that subject, we would use qui. So at the end of the last video, I asked you to check out these 3 questions. Let's go ahead and see if we got them right. Number 1, Jeanne d'Arc, blank et de Do, Ré, Mi, France, avait 13 ans quand elle a entendu les voix des anges. So Jeanne d'Arc, who is from Do, Ré, Mi, France, was 13 years old when she heard the voices of the angels. So here we would use qui. And we would use qui because we have the verb être right after the blank.
Okay, so again, qui est. The verb is right there after the blank. Number 2, c'est Jeanne d'Arc, blank a aidé Charles le 7. It is Jeanne d'Arc who aided Charles the 7th. So here we have a past tense form, a aidé, but I don't have who the person is. So anytime I'm saying who or whom, right, that is qui. And the last one, c'est les Anglais, blank Jeanne d'Arc veut vaincre, defeat. So it is the English that Jeanne d'Arc wants to conquer. So I do have a subject here, Jeanne d'Arc, and then I have the verb veut, vouloir, to want, Jeanne d'Arc wants. So here I would use que. C'est les Anglais que Jeanne d'Arc veut vaincre. Practicing a little bit further here. Read these sentences, pause the video, and see if you can figure out if you're going to use qui or que. So for the first one, I'm looking right after the blank. I see Jeanne d'Arc, that's a pronoun, and then the verb vouloir again, so I know I'm using que. Que Jeanne d'Arc veut défendre. C'est les Français qui. I have a verb ont vendu, right? Passé composé form. No subject in front of it, so I need that. Qui. En 1920, c'est Jeanne d'Arc qui est nommée enceinte. Qui. Right here, because I have the verb être here. No subject. So let's go ahead and practice forming a complete sentence using either qui or que. So rather than just being able to fill in the blank, sometimes you might actually want to bring 2 sentences together and form one using qui or que as your glue. So here's an example. Alice a acheté un magazine. Elle regarde le magazine. Alice bought a magazine. She's looking at the magazine. So instead of making those 2 sentences, we might want to say Alice bought a magazine she's looking at. She bought the magazine she's looking at. Alice a acheté un magazine que elle regarde. That she's looking at. So que represents a little bit of the word that in this case, right? We use que because we have the pronoun elle already being used. Rather than repeating the word magazine twice, right, because I already have it here and then again here, that que represents that object. Let's look at the bottom practice. Voici un musée de Jeanne d'Arc. Je visite le musée souvent. Here's a museum of Jeanne d'Arc. I visit the museum often. So think about in English how you would combine these 2 sentences. Here is the museum of Jeanne d'Arc. I visit the museum often. Here's the museum of Jeanne d'Arc that I visit often. Right? And remember I told you qui usually replaces who or whom. Que would replace the word for that. It represents that word. So I just have to use que here in the middle, and I would say voici un musée de Jeanne d'Arc que je visite souvent. Que because I already have a subject and a verb. Take a moment to pause the video and try these. Notice how I underline the word that I'm trying to help you basically replace because you don't need to say it twice, right? Tu achètes un livre sur la guerre de 100 ans. Tu aimes le livre. Since I'm going to replace le livre here to combine the two sentences, I want to say you buy or you're buying a book on the 100-Year War that you like. That you like. Que tu aimes. Jeanne d'Arc habitait dans une maison. La maison était petite. Jeanne d'Arc lived in a house. The house was small. So I want to say Jeanne d'Arc lived in a house that was small. Now here I have a verb, était. And if I want to use either qui or que in front of it, I need to decide, what is this word était? Is it a pronoun or is it a verb? It is a verb, right? So whenever I don't have a subject in front of the verb and I need one, I use qui. Jeanne d'Arc habitait dans une maison qui était petite. So here we see that qui not only is used, we learned for people, right, as the subject, but any object that would be the subject of a sentence, right? Here it's la maison. So just a little review. Think about two things that you learned about Jeanne d'Arc, and is there anything that shocked you or surprised you about what you learned when it comes to her life? Now, aside from this video, you of course will have the lesson. So in 8.03, go ahead and click through each of the pages. You'll probably notice that some of it is a review of what you already know. So just click through it and write down any notes of anything that maybe you missed, okay? Then I will also include some links. Here's our French FLVS YouTube channel, right? If you didn't know we had a YouTube channel, please make sure you find it and you subscribe to it. It's French FLVS YouTube, FLVS Full-Time YouTube. And I'm going to give you two links, the Joan of Arc biography and the National Geographic Mystery Files of Joan of Arc. Both of them are in English. They're pretty short. One's only 2 minutes, the other one's 23 minutes. And it gives you a little bit more of a background if you're interested in learning more about Jeanne d'Arc. Now, as you continue through lesson 8.03, after you go through a bit of culture and learning about who Joan of Arc was and what she did, they're going to teach you a little bit about qui and que some more. And there is practice for qui and que. The more examples you look at and the more you practice with it, the easier this will be, right? But again, if you follow my rule of when to use qui and when to use que, it's pretty easy to do this practice. So remember, we said qui is used if you don't have a subject, que is used if you already do. Blank s'appelle. In front of the blank, I have a verb, so I need a subject. I'm using qui. Correct. Blank mes parents. I have a subject, I'm using que. Correct. Blank a, that's a verb, it doesn't have an accent mark, right? I need a person, I'm using qui. Correct. So see how I go through those? That's pretty much what you're doing when it comes to understanding how to use or when to use qui and que. That's the basics of learning how to use qui and que. Of course, in the end, the goal is not just to be able to identify which one to use in a sentence, but basically to be able to use them in sentences on your own. So you'll see here you have to start putting some sentences together. So let's try part one of this written assignment. Okay, you're looking out of your hotel room in Marseille. Describe what you see using qui as you rewrite the sentences. Je vois des gens. Les gens se promènent. Usually what I'll do is when I combine two sentences is I find the word that's the same in both. Les gens, right? I see the people are walking. I'm going to take away the people and replace it with qui. Je vois des gens qui se promènent. Let's look at number one actually. Voilà une dame. Elle cherche un taxi. Here's a woman. She's looking for a taxi. What's in both? The woman. So in the second sentence, I take away elle and I replace it with qui. Here's a woman who is looking for a taxi. Part two, you're using que instead. J'ouvre un livre. Je vais lire le livre. I open a book. I'm going to read the book. We're replacing the word book. Okay, the second one, book. with que, and it always goes between the two sentences, right? I'm opening a book that I'm going to read. Notice que is used in front of a subject and a verb. Number 1, Nadine cherche une cassette. Nadine is looking for a cassette. Elle veut écouter la cassette. She wants to listen to the cassette. I don't need la cassette twice because we just want to say Nadine is looking for the cassette she wants to listen to, or that she wants to listen to. So la cassette is removed and replaced with que, and que goes between, right? Notice how these words qui and que always go between because they're the glue. They connect the two sentences together. Nadine cherche une cassette que elle veut écouter. Now, one thing to notice with que is that it will turn into a Q-U apostrophe when a vowel sound or a vowel comes after it. So Q-U apostrophe L, qu'elle veut écouter. Let's do one more for this one. Georges écrit une lettre. Il va t'envoyer la lettre. George is writing a letter. He's going to send you the letter. So let's think it logically in English here. To combine these two, I would probably say George is writing a letter that he's going to send you. So the words that I'm taking out of the second sentence is the words the letter, since I'm not going to say that again, right? When I take away those words the letter, I need to use que in between the two sentences. George writes a letter that he's going to send you. And again, il is a vowel sound, so Q-U apostrophe. Please note, this is super important. We use the que, Q-U-E can turn into Q-U apostrophe. Qui never does. Qui is always qui, Q-U-I. Doesn't matter, it always is Q-U-I. Never shorten it, okay? If I see that on your response, I'm going to know that you did not pay attention to this video. And then part 3, you're filling it in with qui or que, just like the practice we did before. So you have to pay attention to what is after the blank. And then one of those is a voice activity that's connected with that. Okay, so you have a lot of things that should help you here. I'll also include a YouTube video if I find one on qui and que to help really hone in the message here. And if you have any questions, remember I'll be back after spring break, but I will try to check my email every once in a while to see if there's anything that I can help you with. Merci, bonne chance.